Everyone here and read the acknowledgement. The Shire of York acknowledges the Ballabong people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting, and recognise their continuing connection to the land, water and sky and culture. We pay our respects to all these people and their elders past, present and emerging. In accordance with Regulation 14I and 14J of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, notice is given that this meeting is being video and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and minute-taking purposes. By being present at this meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be recorded, and audio recordings are published in the Shire's website following each meeting and may be released on request to a third party. Members of the public are reminded that in accordance with section 6.16 of the Shire of York Local Government Council Meetings Local Law 2016, nobody shall use any visual or recording device or instrument to record the proceedings of council without the written permission of the presiding member. I wish to draw the attention to the disclaimer contained at the agenda document and advise members of the public that in any decisions made at this meeting today can be revoked in accordance with Regulation 10 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until formal notification in writing from the Shire has been received. Any plans and documents or in the agendas and minutes are subject to copyright. The express permission of the copyright owner must be obtained before copying any copyright material. There's no change to standing orders. There's no visitors present. Any declarations of proximity and declarations of financial interest. There's one from myself regarding the 2000 SY 040-0425 multi-year funding acquittals, York Motor Show 24-25. Myself on SY 043 of 0425, draft lease, York and District Cooperative Limited. Councillor Denise Smythe, SY 043 of 0425, the draft land lease, the York and York Districts Cooperative Limited. And Councillor Wright of SY 043 of 0425, the draft land lease between the Shire and the York and Districts Co-op Limited. Any disclosure of impartial interests? Nil. Attendance. There's myself, Councillor Trent, Shire President, Councillor Dennis Warnick is Deputy Shire President, who's on electronic means, Councillor Chris Gibbs, Councillor Kevin Pike, Councillor Denise Smythe and Councillor Peter Wright. And in accordance with Regulation 14C of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, the Shire President has authorised Councillor Warnick to attend this meeting via electronic means, having given consideration to the location in which Councillor Warnick is attending the meeting and the equipment used to attend the meeting, confirming that they are suitable to enable effective engagement in the deliberations and communications and ensuring confidentiality. The staff members here, we have Ms. Alina Behan, the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Rebecca Palumbo, the Acting Executive Manager, Corporate and Community Services, and Vanessa Green, the Council's Executive and Support Officer. Apologies from Councillor Mr. Chris Linnell, the Chief Executive Officer, who is on leave from the 10th of March to the 25 to the 7th of July 25 inclusive, and Mr Lyndon Mellor, Executive Manager Infrastructure and Development Services, who's on leave also. Leave of absence previously approved, nil. Number of people in the gallery, 1, 2, 3, 4. Someone got a head count down there? 16? Any advance on 16? No. No, you can't jump up and down twice.
17, I think.
17. Thank you. Questions from previous meetings, responses to those taken on notice, there were nil. Responses to unasked questions from the previous meeting. Shana Hilda, the first question. In the addendum SY 030 of 0325, adding the meeting up for 25th March 25, SY 030 of 0325, minutes and recommendations from the meeting held on the 11th of March 2025, item 11, is that 11 or 1I, CEO reduce the transfer of reserve by 40,000 to the Pioneer Memorial Lodge. Will this have an impact in connection to the generator for our elderly people? The response from the Shire President: the funds are being returned to the reserve due to delays in the Pioneer Memorial Lodge operations generator project caused by extended Western Power approval timeframes. As a result, the funds will not be expended in the current financial year. The Pioneer Memorial Lodge Reserve is specifically designated for capital works to the facility, and the funds will be reallocated to support the project in the next financial year, subject to council approval. Now we have public question time, which opened at 5:09 p.m. And our first question comes from Mr. David Sparrow.
Did you want to go first? No, you go first. All right, okay. Thank you.
This is question one. Mr.
Question
Sparrow.
one. Now, I understand the email I sent through was actually a multi-part question for question one. There was actually a typo in my email, which I've since corrected, but I'm happy to provide a correction to that. This question pertains to, and I'm very thankful, by the way, to our crew on social media and everything else, keeping our town informed, whether it's through the webpage or our social media. We do appreciate that.
If you could ask your question, please.
Yes, I'm actually congratulating you on your good works, and I will ask the question. This pertains to the disappointing outcome regarding the Garrett and Garrett state affairs with the York CRC. My question is regarding the date of the 5th of March, which I believe you guys were first informed of it. The concern is why it took a month to get to us, but the main question, if I get to it, is actually who knew and when regarding the March the 5th date. For example, were councillors made aware, and did they actually have to make requests or vote on it actually going back to the next stage of the game? And which staff are serving us, which includes someone who was actually running for as an ALP candidate at the time, were they aware of that?
We only want you to ask one question, and that question's aimed at state election of the 8th of March.
Oh, do you want me to go for question one? All right. No, there's actually...
And the answer to that is the timing of the disclosures on the remit of the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, the correspondence to the Shire of York from the DPP stated that the information was confidential and privileged and expressly to be forbidden the distribution of disclosure of the contents. So that's an answer to your first question.
No, it's not, because you haven't clarified. Was that when you say disclosure, to whom? Was council aware of the decision back on March the 5th? Basically, who knew? Which of our staff who work on our coin knew about it? And did councillors know about it? And did they direct you guys
You're
on
mixing
what to
your
the stage?
questions. I'm answering the questions as they're printed on the
Okay.
agenda here.
So which one?
So
Yeah, you need to go down a bit. That's okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Question 1. So that was
Now,
You've said there
you
was
can ask
privileged
another
information,
question.
but that's nothing. I'm asking for a specific date, which is not privileged information. Who knew when? Basically, did council know? Did council direct the Shire to then go to the next stage? Who is the dog wagging the tail or the tail wagging the dog? Basically, is where I'm getting to.
the council is this group at this table,
I understand.
and we were told to maintain confidentiality.
When were you
of
told,
that
sir?
item.
Please.
It's immaterial.
No, it isn't, because I will take this further. I'll take it a while.
Point of order, it's
Yeah.
not a debate.
Yeah, sorry. I understand that,
Thank
Chris.
you, Councillor.
Yep. I'm specifically asking when were you told, because it was around about the time of an election, and we also have a Shire of York staff.
order.
All right, okay.
Your question 2.
Are you talking about 1B? Where is it? What have we got here? Okay, yeah, sure, I'll read it from there. Were any political candidates associated with York and or the Wheat Belt, in particular York CRC ex-employee and our current Manager of Tourism and Economic Development, who, in the best of my knowledge, based upon we've been publicly shared on social media by Darren West MLC, had been granted leave without pay from the Shire, rates pay of unemployment, so she could campaign as a candidate for the ALP in the WA state election. And the bit that I left off in that was she
Okay,
aware?
that's it. That's your question.
No, that's the typo. There is no question in that. The question
There's a
actually
question
finishes.
mark at the end of your WA state election.
All right, how are you going to answer that? Because I
I
actually
am
haven't
not
finished the question.
sure which part of this is the question.
Of course, because it's
The
a typo.
council does not consider questions pertaining to staff leave, as is in accordance with the Local Government Act of 1995, sections 5.41 2D. This is a matter for the CEO. The responses already provided to you publicly by the Shire have already been provided by the Shire administration. And I'll take a question from someone else who wishes to ask a question.
Karen Marwick. My question is, McLeod's lawyers provided legal advice on the Great Southern landfill, Allawala landfill, at the cost to Yorkshire ratepayers of over $3,690. What was the outcome of that expense? Please give details.
I think I'll refer that to the officers to provide a response. But basically what we are trying to do is prevent a tip being developed at Allawoona, and we're working with our solicitors to ensure that, to the best of our ability, that does occur.
So, through the chair, sorry, can I just ask clarification about the when of that, the expenditure? Just because we've spent significant amounts of money over the years with them. Is it current financials? It's in the current. That's great. That just helps me because I've only been involved in the last month or so with this one. So that is, we're working with McLeod solicitors to find our status for either becoming an intervener or a submitter to the upcoming, I believe it's end of May, SAT hearing on Allawoona. So they were providing us advice and guidance as to what we could do, and I believe that we are progressing with a submission on hoping to get the ability to submit to SAT on behalf of the Shire and on behalf of the community.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask the second question?
You may ask a second question.
Thank you very much. That's okay. At September 2024 OCM meeting, a question regarding road maintenance on Dudinanning Road and Narralogan and Goldfield Road maintenance delays. The CEO answer was delays relating to the supposed existence of the black cockatoo habitat. Where is the documents to show how the $100,000 was spent? In 2013, BirdLife Western Australia did a survey. No habitat was found around York area. Why was BirdLife survey disregarded, as it appears to be a waste of our ratepayers' money?
Thank you. CEO.
Thank you, through the chair. I'll just pass that one on to our acting EMCCS, as she was involved in the project, and will be able to give you great clarity.
Thank you for that. Through you, Mr. President. In regards to that expense, at the time we had a clearing permit application in to remove trees so that we could undertake the roadworks. Due to the fact that most of the wheat belt is modelled as black cockatoo habitat, we had to refer the clearing permit to the Federal Government Department of Environment, and they required us to have further investigation into whether or not black cockatoos were there. So the $100,000 was the entire documents and knowledge and information we had to put together for the application to the federal government. One part of that was a further investigation into black cockatoos. I don't think it's not that we didn't take any advice from the BirdLife one. That's actually, we know from reports such as BirdLife that there is not black cockatoos out there, but we had to take the further investigation to be able to demonstrate that to the federal government.
Can I ask, where would you find that on the agendas? What month?
So just referring that back through to the acting EMCCS.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. It's not actually on the agenda, but all those reports and the documentation we had to put together are on the Shire website under, I think, look, I'd have to tell you exactly, but I think it's under community engagement. But there is a document that's about that fat. That is all the stuff we had to put together.
And there's a list of where the money was spent. That's more or less what I want to know.
If you would, please.
So we are really getting into debate, but if you can provide that advice, that'd be great, and then we'll move on.
Thank you.
In regards to the application to the Australian Government Department of Environment, the entire cost was, I'm rounding, about $74,000. There was a contract with a environmental consultancy called Kutera, and all their payments would have appeared in the financial things over various council meetings.
Now I'll go back to someone else's questions.
I have questions on behalf of Shana Hilda. First question is, could you provide an update on the swimming pool, and could an update be provided to ratepayers at each OCM with a summary and costs incurred, as this requires a major financial expenditure?
Very well. Well, at the moment, all we've decided is where we're going to put the pool. And in terms of costings, I'll have to ask the Acting Chief Executive Officer if you can give us any advice on that, although we know nothing as far as I know.
Through the chair, it would not normally be this meeting is not for updates. This is to consider reports and make decisions and direct the administration to undertake activities. So there may be some other mechanisms, by the way, that we could do that. Whether we do have a major project section on our Shire website, that might be a great place just to put some updates, but definitely through this meeting, no.
It's just that we want to know what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay,
suggest you look at the website.
Yeah, but I don't think there's an update as such. Yeah. Okay. Second question. The Shire House in Dinsdale Street has just been refurbished at a cost of over $2,200. Will this be a permanent Shire employee house?
If the CEO could answer that question,
So through the chair, that is the housing that's available to staff. Currently, the furnishing is there to support 2 new employments, which are the graduate engineer that's working on our major infrastructure projects and roads, and we also currently have a contract EHO working out of there. So the intention is for that to remain for those temporary employments.
Okay. Thank you.
someone else got a question?
I've got 2 from myself,
we
but
could
David...
have someone else come up and ask a question. We're fast running out of question time, though.
Okay. All right.
So if no one else has got a question.
I do. Gentleman over here too.
That was from Sean and Hilda, those 2 questions.
Yeah.
These 2 questions will be from this girl here,
Yeah.
Diane.
Yeah, Diane Buckley. Right.
Right.
First question. This question relates to the outstanding rates and services. I understand that the council has appointed a debt collection agency, but would like to know how or why this was allowed to get to where we have over $700,000 that is overdue by 2 to 3 years.
Mr. CEO, Acting CEO, if we could answer that question, please.
I can answer that through the chair. So we have had debt collection agencies in the past, and they quietly work through in exactly the way we outline in the report. They make approaches to people, etc., etc. But the majority of the outstanding that's over the 2 to 3 years old is relating to Settlers House. Now that's really, really complicated in terms of ownership. There are probably about 5 or 6 different sets of owners who've actually gone into administration. So the ownership of those properties is difficult. We are working with our lawyers to seek vesting orders for those properties so that we can actually move them on and sell them and resolve that debt. We won't get the full amount back, but we can't stop rating them because they're still properties in existence. But we believe through our legal advice that they actually are now vested with the Crown, and we can approach the Crown for vesting. It may need to go to the Supreme Court or Federal Court, and then we can actually make moves to resolve those, and that will clear that, or substantially clear that.
Awesome answer. Thank you so much.
Okay. Second question. What progress has been made in securing a new plumbing inspector and building inspector? Current cost for plumbing consultant is $14,000 per month.
CEO, if you could field an answer.
I'll give that a crack. I don't think we're calling them the same thing. So I think your plumbing inspector is our environmental health officer.
Yes.
Yes, fantastic. All right, so that's a contract EHO. We've actually just finished recruitment for one, and we are happy to announce we've made an offer, and hopefully they'll be starting within the next, I think probably a month. Not 100% sure of the date because I only got back from leave today, but that's happened.
That's good.
The building inspector, we are going out for a manager of development services. They may or may not come with that skill set, and if they don't come with that skill set, then we will look to find another way to do it, whether we look for a part-time person that can do that or whether we do as we have now, we've contracted the services in.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe question time is over, unless Council want to extend it.
No, sorry, can we please extend? That's okay.
Councillor Wright, you are moving.
Councillor Wright moves that we have an extension for 5 minutes.
Seconded.
Councillor Gibbs, seconds.
Councillor Gibbs, seconds. Councillors, anyone have any questions on that? Then I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That gives us 5 more minutes.
Right. I'll make it short and sweet. My name's Roger Hayes. I read a while ago, and I should have double-checked before I came out tonight to get the correct wording. Ashley and Robin, the case in regards to the CRC was thrown out due to lack of evidence, to my understanding. And I also understand the council spent a lot of money on trying to deal with this. What's happening from here on in? Are we just giving up, or exactly what? Are we still fighting on? It's a lot of money to lose.
Refer to the CEO, acting.
Thank you, through the chair. That's a lot to unpack. So obviously we're very disappointed in the outcome. Having, as David Sparrow mentioned earlier, that there were the dates, we weren't able to disclose to the community that there was a possibility of the discontinuance, which is what it is. That's only a discontinuance of the current charges as they stand. Northern Detectives have been very clear they are not finishing the investigations, and we have already been working with them to provide any further information that we can. They seemed very optimistic to me that they could find appropriate information to continue and reinstate the charges at a later date. So they're working on that. That's a matter for the police. That's completely outside our jurisdiction. For us, though, we did spend quite a lot of money on it. It was $361,000 to purchase in the CRC, and an awful lot of my time, to be fair, to get it back up and running. But we are so pleased to have kept that service for the community. It was made very clear to us that if we did lose it, there was not much chance that we could get one again. So although we did clear out, and that was basically the deal was that we cleared down the creditors' debts. But for that, we actually got the building that we're operating out of now. That was disclosed to us as a $450,000, $650,000 asset. So in terms of the Shire expenditure, an okay deal was done. In terms of keeping a service to the community, a really great deal was done. And we still have incredible positive responses, sorry, I'm talking too fast now, from everyone that comes and uses it. And they're just so grateful to still have someone to come in and go, how do I use my mobile phone? Can you help me get onto Centrelink? We're still doing all of that, and that's still available to the committee. And although a horrible thing has happened, it's still a really good outcome for York. So that's our focus really moving forward, helping the police with whatever investigations that they require of us, and hope for a different result into the future.
Yeah, keep the fight going. Thank you.
And if anyone knows anything which can help the police, call the police.
I do have one more, and it's a bit of a Dorothy Dixer. I know it's been worded differently, but trust me, I'm not actually being combative here. The Dorothy Dixer is actually more, it's a case of concern because I actually get people send me stuff, and it's obviously there's people out there who are concerned about a lot of stuff, but they're too scared to ask or approach in this way, whereas I'm no shrinking violet, as you know. And once again, good work, one and all. We're all in this together, whether we're ratepayers or serving on council or an admin. But my Dorothy Dixer in this case is in relation to code of conduct, because at the moment we have a situation where people are concerned where we have our tourism manager and economic promoter and everything else like that also was granted leave without pay. I understand where democracy is able to do that, to go and stand for a political party. And I believe that happened from way back in January, based on information I've been given, where it was meet the candidate meetings and everything else. That particular person has been now taken back to serve us as continuing with tourism and everything else. However, in many people's minds, she's no longer really the face of tourism and everything else for our Shire, but actually more for the ALP. So in regards to our code of conduct, is it going to be reviewed, or in what ways can this be addressed to reassure our community? For example, I'll quote from your own code of our code of conduct, really. Staff will refrain from partisan political activities which could cast doubts on the neutrality and impartiality in acting in their professional capacity, which is fine. I mean, we all have political beliefs, I understand that. But when you're also a face or a front for your...
Point of order, is there a question?
Yeah, there is. The question is that going to be reviewed? In what ways can the community be reassured that our current tourism and economics manager is actually acting in a neutral and impartial way when technically many people see her now as a face for the ALP?
Well, I'm afraid that the lass is employed by the council to do her job and is not employed with anything to do with the Labor Party. There's a lot of people out there who are members of different political parties.
Appreciate it, yep.
Okay.
But she's also a face for... She's featuring on ABC. She's featuring in YouTube.
And not being...
Point of order, it's not a debate.
Debating it now, so end of question time.
Sorry, what was the answer to that, please?
5:31.
I beg your pardon, what was the actual answer to that, please?
We've closed public question time.
Oh, so there is no answer.
5:31. Would you take your seat, please?
Thank you.
Right. Applications for leave of absence? Nil. Presentations? Petitions? Mr. Brian Humphrey of York, containing approximately 43 signatures, requesting the Shire of York to A. Formally acknowledge AS/NZS 4819.2011 rural and urban street numbering addressing. Well, if he's here. Very well. If you'd stand and raise your petition, speak through it. I wasn't aware, Mr. President, that I have the opportunity. I didn't have my material with me tonight. I understood it was to be the name.
We just read it out. Sorry, we just read it out.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's fine.
At the end, we'll make a comment. Right, street addressing stands is hereafter called the Australian Standard as a criteria for assigning all rural and urban street address numbers within the Shire of York. B, to adopt a new local bylaw as proposed in attachment 3 that formally describes what we, in capital letters, suggest would be the Shire's minimum performance, expectations and responsibility for all property owners to develop to display assigned street address numbers, and C, to publish a new bylaw for the Shire website. Now, the recommendation which the officers are putting forward to us: Council note the petition received from Mr. Brian Humphreys in relation to rural and urban street numbers within the Shire of York will be forwarded to the relevant officer for consideration in conjunction with Clause 6.102 of the Shire of York Local Government Standing Orders, Local Law 2016. So we'll refer it to the officers and they'll have a look at it and respond. I know there's a problem when you've got a house number and a registered street number, and even further down the road you've got the same number repeated. That's a problem. Any more petitions? Deputations? Nil? Pardon? Okay. Do we have a mover for that motion which I've read out?
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Councillor Gibbs moved.
Councillor Wright seconds.
Councillor Wright seconded. Anyone ask any questions on the motion? Councillor Wright.
Could we discuss this at the May concert forum?
Well, when the officer comes back with a recommendation, yes. But if that doesn't happen between now and then we'll have to come back later. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you, councillors. It's carried. And Councillor Gibbs, Warnick, you voted yes. That's 6-0. Presentations? Nil. Deputations? Nil. Delegates' reports? Council meetings, they're listed there for Councillor Smythe. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Councillor Smythe.
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Smythe. Seconded.
Councillor Wright seconds the motion.
Seconds. All those in favour then? Thank you. That's carried 6-0. Announcement from the presiding member without discussion. They are listed in the agenda. Our first item, officers' reports, SY 036 of 0425, application to operate personal beehives, lot 13, 285 Bailey Road, York. There's an officer's recommendation there. Anyone have any questions regarding the Councillor Wright?
This is Councillor Wright here. My question is that when planning approvals have been done, they come to us, and if we want to bring it to council, then we do that. Why can't beehives be done the same way?
CEO, you may be able to answer.
Currently, we don't have delegation for that, so that could be something we consider into the future. One of the things we do bring them for is that there may be some objections, etc. So that would, if there were objections, they would still come to you. Without knowing the full detail of this report, then I can't say whether that's happened, but that's usually when a planning item would come to council.
If the neighbours had objected, then obviously that would come to council as well. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? Then I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, I thought Councillor Smythe.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
It's moved, seconded Councillor Gibbs.
Yeah.
All in favour, councillors? Thank you. 6-0. And we have another beehive application.
Councillor Smythe's happy to move it.
Hang on. Anyone got any questions regarding this? No? Councillor Smythe is moving.
Councillor Gibbs, second.
Councillor Gibbs is seconding. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried 6-0. Archaeological SY 038 of 0425 archaeological at the the Pony Club grounds. We have a recommendation. Has anyone got any questions regarding this particular report? Councillor Gibbs.
Councillor Gibbs speaking. Thank you. Just checking, it was a question that I did check on with the agenda briefing as well, that since a week has passed, there's been no further recourse from the stakeholders. Just checking. Thank you.
So there's been no further. That's correct.
Thanks.
Anyone have any further questions? Then I'll receive a mover.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Councillor Smythe. Councillor Wright.
Councillor Wright seconds the motion.
All in favour? It's carried 6-0. SY 039 of 0425 Community Grant Funding Acquittal, the Wheatbelt Arts and Events Inc., Balladong First 2025. There is a recommendation here. Do you have any questions from councillors regarding this issue? Nil. Someone prepared to move?
Councillor Wright moves the motion.
Wright moves.
Councillor Gibbs.
Councillor Gibbs seconds. All those in favour? It's carried 6-0. The next item is SY 040 of 0425, the multi-year funding acquittal for the York Motor Show. And I've declared an interest of financial interest, and I will leave the room. So if someone would appoint themselves as the chair. Councillor Warnick's going to chair the meeting.
Can you hear me, Vanessa? Yes. There I am. All right, has the President left the room?
Yes.
All Right, SY040, multi-funding agreement for the York Motor Show. Do I have any questions from councillors regarding the item? It appears that I don't, so I ask for a mover for the item.
Councillor Smythe is happy to move it.
Smythe?
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Councillor Gibbs.
Smythe has moved. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbs. Is there anybody opposed to the motion? As there is not, I will put the item to the vote, and if somebody could tally it on my behalf. All those in favour?
5-0.
Appears to be 5-0. Thank you, Councillor Smythe. Could I please request that somebody invite President Trent back into the room to resume the chair?
Thank you, Councillor Warnick. SY 041 of 0425, a policy review, various governance policies. We have a recommendation there. Anyone have any questions to ask of this policy review? Councillor Gibbs.
Thank you. Councillor Gibbs speaking. May I request that in future, if we're looking to update, rescind or adopt new policies, that we keep them as separate items. It could potentially be a little bit difficult moving forward if someone if someone agrees with part of the resolution but not all of it. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a recommendation that we'll take back to the officers. It may make the meetings a little longer, but anyway, do we have any further questions? Yes?
Yeah, Councillor Gibbs speaking. Regarding Policy G1, record keeping, I just wanted to ask a question that may solve a minor issue moving forward. Do we need to have something in that policy that specifically states how and when councillors and other people are to actually submit records? There doesn't seem to be anything concrete as to when any of this mechanism happens.
Acting CEO?
There's not a direct reference to that in the policy, but it's just as reasonably, like as soon as reasonably practical is the usual test on that one. We could make an update for that and a future one if council feels that's important. So if we do, we'll bring some wording to a concept forum and then we'll bring it again as a separate report.
For instance, if you make some notes on your blotter at this meeting, you should submit that blotter at the end of the meeting. So the recommendation is there. Any further questions? No further questions. Someone want to move that? Councillor Smythe.
Councillor Smythe moves the recommendation.
A seconder? Councillor Pike.
Councillor Pike seconds.
Thank you, councillors. I'll now put the motion. Those in favour?
Sorry, Mr. President, I'll be speaking against it.
Okay. You may speak. Sorry, Councillor Wright. Councillor Smythe, you going to speak to the motion?
No, I just would like to agree with what is written there. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gibbs, you may speak. Oh, Councillor Pike, you...
No, I'm happy with the recommendation as it stands.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Gibbs.
Thank you. Councillor Gibbs speaking. Okay, so related to my question at the top of this item, this one's a little bit tricky because it involves three policies at the same time. So my issue with point number 1, which is rescinding policy G6, community access to information, earlier in the report it mentions that most of the content is covered in other documents, policies or plans, but doesn't state which information is covered and which information isn't. I would prefer this one to come back with more detailed information of where and how the equivalent information is covered in our other policies, plans and documents, because without that detail, I'm not comfortable rescinding a policy if I don't know what's included elsewhere and what isn't included elsewhere. Because the report specifically states that most of the content is covered elsewhere, but not all. I'm not comfortable supporting that. Number 2, the reviewed policies, record keeping. My only issue with the record keeping one is I think that what Madam CEO suggested a second ago is probably a good idea. It would be better to have stronger wording around that policy so that people know what they're in for regarding the forwarding of information, and I don't think it would be a really big deal to update that policy now rather than making a note to adjust it later. I'd like to see that one go away and come back a bit stronger. I don't have a problem with the updating of, G31 flags as presented in Appendix 4. That one looks pretty spot on to me. But for the reasons outlined, I'm not supporting this recommendation. I'd like to see these come back with more detail and a bit stronger, please.
Very well. So, anyone else want to speak against? No? Councillor Smythe, you wish to rebut anything?
I would just like to add that I believe the record-keeping policy, there is a law with regards to keeping of records, and that we would need to follow that as well as whatever we've got. But there is specific rules about record keeping.
Madam CEO, could you clarify that, please?
Yes, so I don't believe the State Records Act has any further clarity on timing, which is Councillor Gibbs's question. So, but it's not a difficult thing to bring this back for another report if that's a major concern for all council.
So the mover has rebutted, so go on.
I was going to suggest that if you do wish to make some changes or amendments, please foreshadow another motion so that we can continue with this item later.
Councillor Gibbs foreshadows.
And your motion would be that it be referred back to the officers?
Referred back to the officers with more detail around point 1 and more detail around point 2A. Those two policies, please.
So you foreshadowed that. Councillor Wright, you and...
Councillor Wright seconds the shadow motion.
Foreshadowing. You'd support. But now, I'll put the motion. Those in favour of the motion as presented here. So that lapses. So Councillor Gibbs, you're for bringing forward your foreshadowed motion.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Gibbs speaking. Do you require specific wording for that now?
We would.
Okay. So point 1 on the recommendation resolves to delay rescinding policy G6. Resolves to delay rescinding policy G6, community access to information, pending further detailed information from the administration. Then point 2A. No, sorry. Yeah, point 2. Resolves to delay adopting the following reviewed policies, pending addition of detailed information, and that would be A underneath that. Then I guess point 3 would be adopts the following reviewed policies, which would be the original 2B, G31 flags as presented in Appendix 4, which would make point 3 now point 4, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to make any minor formatting prior to publication. I think
so you're actually moving the one about flags.
I have no issue with G31, so I'm quite happy to have the foreshadowing, including flags as being moved.
Resolved to adopt.
As being resolved.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Smythe? No questions. So you're moving, Councillor Smythe. I take it you're
I'm happy to second
seconding.
that
So it's
recommendation.
been moved and seconded that we go back to the officers regarding those, and we adopt the policy on flags. All in favour? Carried 6-0.
Sorry, guys, your food's arrived, but the door's locked, so they can't get in to drop it off.
Thank you. So you're right with that, the wording? Okay. Now, SY 042 of 0425, the proposed Shire of York Bushfire Brigade's Local Law 2025. And I'll thank the officers for their work at putting this together. And there's a recommendation there. Does anyone have any questions regarding this matter? Councillor Wright.
This is Councillor Wright. I've got a number of questions, or just to make me a bit more clearer about what's happening going forwards. So are the fire brigades, where there are 4 of them, I believe,
Yes.
or the captain and their lieutenants, and then the volunteers after that, but with no secretaries or treasurers or anything like that. So I'm just wondering, why are these AGMs of these branches, are they held in October?
Acting CEO, can you answer that question?
I'll attempt to. So we did meet with the representative of the Bushfire Brigade, and they were looking at different timing of the AGM, but they were hoping to bring it forward a little bit to make the timing of the rest of this work. But that is entirely up to the brigades themselves.
Your next question?
The next question. So the next question is, when do the fire brigade have to notify the Shire of York of its membership? Is that in November?
CEO, can you answer that?
Not without quickly looking at the policy. If you give me a few minutes, I'll try to do that.
We certainly need to know who they are, and we need to know whether they're trained. Because if they're not trained, they're not going near the fire ground. If they don't have a uniform, they don't go near the fire ground. This is one of the points they stressed out at the conference in Bruce Rock.
So while I'm still looking, as I said, we did meet with representatives of the Bushfire Committee, and we did go through the timing of all this quite extensively. So while I can't see it now, I know they were confident of meeting all the requirements. Very definitely that they had to refer back to the Shire before bushfire season started. So I'm afraid I can't see that yet without taking up far too much time of the meeting.
Could you use your microphone if you want to speak?
Okay. Was that one? The next question is, going forwards, what is these brigades going to look like? Because the lack of volunteers is going to cause a problem in the future. So what are we going to do about them going forwards?
CEO?
That's a really difficult one to answer. So we obviously work extensively with them, encourage volunteering across a range of organisations, not just bushfire volunteers. We support them with training, we support them with equipment. At the end of the day, it's really up to who does volunteer on the day. Certainly the requirement for PPE and the requirement for training has actually put quite a few people off, but it's really important to keep our volunteers safe when they are on the fire site, and we wouldn't be relaxing that.
Next question, Councillor Wright. No more questions? So we've had those points clarified. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Smythe.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Councillor Gibbs, seconds.
Seconds. All those in favour then? Let's go 6-0. Thanks, Councillor Warnick. Our next item is SY 043 of 0425, our draft land lease, York and the Districts Cooperative. Myself, Councillor I'll read my disclaimer. Councillor Wright reads, Financial Declaration. With regard to the draft land lease, York and Districts Cooperative Limited, the matter of SY 043 of 0425, I disclose I have an association with the applicant or person seeking the decision. The association is I'm a shareholder of the York and Districts Cooperative in accordance with the correspondence from the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries dated the 22nd of April 2025, reference E25 078222, via the authority delegated by the Minister of Local Government. Approval has been granted under section 5.69 brackets on 3 brackets off brackets on A brackets off of the Local Government Act 1999 for me to participate in the debate and vote on the matter. Councillor Smythe, if you would read likewise.
I, Councillor Smythe, with regards to draft land lease of the York and District Cooperative Limited, in the matter of item SY 0430425, I disclose that I have an association with the applicant or person asking a decision. The association is I am a shareholder of the York and District Co-op, and in accordance with the correspondence from the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries dated the 22nd of April 2025, reference E2507822, via authority delegated by the Minister of Local Government, approval has been granted under section 5.693A of the Local Government Act of 1995 for me to participate in the debate and vote on the matter.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, would you do likewise?
This is Councillor Wright. In regard to the draft land lease, the York and Districts Co-op Limited, the matter of item number SY 04304 of 25, I disclose that I have an association with the applicant or person seeking a decision. The association is that I'm a shareholder in the York and District Co-op in accordance with the correspondence from the Department of Local Government, Sports and Cultural Industries dated the 22nd of April 2025, reference number E2507822, via authority delegated by the Minister of Local Government. Approval has been granted under section 5.693A of the Local Government Act of 1995 for me to participate in the debate and vote on the matter.
A copy of the correspondence from the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries, which contains the approvals and any conditions imposed in this, is presented at Appendix 4. So, councillors, the recommendation is there. Anyone wish to query, question? Councillor Gibbs.
Thanks. Councillor Gibbs speaking. Not to bring anything negative into what I feel is quite a positive project, but in the unlikely event that the lease was to be discontinued after the 10 years, I was wondering what happens to the infrastructure that we're responsible for.
The CEO respond.
Yes, there's a range of clauses that we had exactly the same concerns, and we put a range of clauses in there that deals with that specifically. So options could include them purchasing it off us. It could be that we demolish but what we've actually basically sought a very long-term lease. They have agreed to it. There are checkpoints. We've got a 10-year initial one, then we've got 5 + 5 + 5. It's highly unlikely that anything could happen, but we've already put provisions. The main one would be seeking compensation if it was to stay.
Thank you.
No further questions, queries on this issue? Then would someone be prepared to move?
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Councillor Pike seconds.
Councillor Pike seconds.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried 6-0. So the project will move on. Our next item is SY 044 of 0425, the Major Strategic Review, Inaugural Council Plan 2025 to 2035. The recommendation is there. Does anyone have any questions, concerns regarding this item or the recommendation? Nobody? Then I'll ask for a mover.
Councillor Smythe's happy to move the recommendation.
Councillor Smythe's prepared to move.
Councillor Wright seconds the motion.
Councillor Wright seconds the motion. Then I'll put the motion. All in favour? Thank you, Councillor Warnick. That's carried 6-0. Our next item is SY 045 of 0425, Support for the Australian Local Government Associations 2025 Federal Election Priorities. Does anyone have any questions regarding this item? Nil. Then someone prepared to move. Councillor Wright.
Councillor Wright moves the motion.
Seconder.
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
Gibbs seconds. Now I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried 6-0. Our next item is SY 046 of 0425, the financial report for March 2025. There's a recommendation there. Any councillor have any questions? No. Then I'll ask for a mover. Councillor Smythe.
Councillor Smythe's happy to move the recommendation.
Councillor Gibbs seconds.
Councillor Gibbs seconds. Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's carried 6-0. Thank you. Our next item is SY 047 of 0425, our investments for the month of March 2025. We have a recommendation. Does anyone have any questions regarding the recommendation? I think you better turn your mic off, Councillor Gibbs. Okay, no questions, then I'll ask for a mover.
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Councillor Smythe's happy to second.
Very well, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? That's carried 6-0. Thank you, Councillor Warnick. Our next one is items for which previous notice has been given. There's nil. Questions from members without notice. Councillor Wright.
This is Councillor Wright here. It's regarding the caravan park, our local caravan park, and I just want to know whether an item could be brought up at the concept forum about about the use of the overnight stay, where there are so many people using that now that it's got around and they're not using the caravan park. So I wanted to bring that up as a concept item.
Well, if we bring it along to the next concept forum, yes. No further questions or notices, questions without notice? And business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. It's now presented for Council May 25, ordinary council meeting. Notification is required as appendix to the report is yet to be received from the WA Electoral Commission. So there's nothing there. And we will close the meeting to the public if someone would move that.
Councillor Gibbs moves.
Councillor Gibbs moved.
And Councillor Wright seconds.
All those in favour then? Thank you, Councillor Warnick. And if you would depart the scene for the moment and...
Councillor Wright moves to open.
Public be invited back in.
Councillor Gibbs seconds that.
All those in favour? That's carried. 6-0. And now we will bring the people back in. 6:13. Right. So it has been moved, Councillor Smythe, seconded Councillor Pike, that with regard to outstanding rates and sundry debts, Debt Recovery Council, 1, receives the summary of outstanding rates and sundry debtors as at the 31st of March 2025, as presented in the confidential appendices 1 and 2. 2, directs the Chief Executive to refer the 31 debts identified in the confidential Appendix 1 as debts greater than 3 years to McLeod's lawyers to commence or continue actions in accordance with the Section 6.64 of the Local Government Act 1995. And 3, directs the CEO to refer 74 debts identified in the confidential report Appendix 1 as debts aged 2 to 3 years and debts aged 1 to 2 years to McLeod's lawyers to commence debt recovery actions. That was voted in favour by myself, Councillor Warnick, Councillor Pike and Councillor Smythe, and against was Councillor Gibbs and Councillor Wright. It's carried 4-2. And I'll declare the meeting closed at 6:15 p.m. and thank all those who are here for their attendance.